What's up, Unlocking Your Inner Strength listeners? How would you like to know how to set your environments up so they're peak productivity environments? Most people have no clue how to do this. Well, I have good news for you. I've put together a special report showing you how to do this. Normally, it's $45, but since you're a loyal listener to the show, you can get it for only $10 at unlockingyourinnerstrength.com/time.
You're listening to the Inner Strength Show. If you want to step into your greatness, you've come to the right place. Here is your host, the human strength expert, Kyle Newell.
What's up, everybody? It's Kyle from Unlocking Your Inner Strength and Newell Strength. Once again, back for episode number 64. And lest I not forget, next week is Halloween, so I'll be having some kind of scary story lesson for you. I love Halloween. I love horror movies. I love all that stuff. What I wanted to get across to you today were some ideas on how to kind of reevaluate what you're doing at work. And if you own a business, what you're doing with that. And just kind of how to structure your life so you're spending the most amount of time on the things that are of the highest and best use to you. So most people spend their time doing stuff that they don't like doing. They check email for hours a day. Then they zone out and go on Flakebook for hours a day just to kind of numb their mind from the boring shit that they've been doing all day. So before I get to that, I had a call last week with one of the guys, Steve Knox, that coaches me. So Steve is a specialist in personality profiles. He gives me a lot of clarity, helps me with leading my team. And one of the things he said was, Kyle, you have to be careful because you know your passion and you live your passion. So to other people, that comes across as you're having fun all the time. And that will upset people because they don't think you're actually working, even though you're putting in more work than most people can even fathom. Because most people are working jobs that they don't like or that they find somewhat fulfilling. But if you gave them truth serum, they'd say, this is not what I want to be doing. I'd rather be doing such and such. This is what I dreamt of doing when I was a kid, but I didn't go into it because this was the more comfortable path. So when Steve told me that, I started thinking and trying to come up with ways to help people get clear on the use of their time. Now, I've made plenty of energy management and time management recordings. It's out there. You can look back at some of the older episodes. And one of the things I talked within that are about Covey's Quadrants. So Stephen Covey, who's now dead, wrote 7 Skills of Highly Effective People, amongst other books, had what's called a quadrant. And I always go back to this. And what he talked about here was you have down the left column, important and not important. Okay. And on the top rows, you have urgent and not urgent. So if I break these quadrants down, quadrant 1 would be urgent and important. Quadrant 2, which is top right, would be not urgent but important. Quadrant 3 would be not important but urgent. And quadrant 4 would be not urgent and not important. So quadrant 1 is a quadrant of necessity. Okay, it's managing in some ways. Quadrant 3 is a quadrant of deception. And I'll go over what's involved in all these quadrants in a minute. Quadrant 4 is a waste, quadrant of waste. Quadrant 2 is the most important, but probably the one people spend the least amount of time on, but you should be spending 90% of your time here, is the quadrant of quality and personal leadership. But because it's not urgent, it's very easy to just keep putting off, put off. So quadrant 1 involves things like, remember that's important and urgent. There are crises, medical emergencies, pressing problems, deadline-driven projects, last-minute preparations for scheduled activities. Quadrant 3, which is urgent but not important, are interruptions, some calls, mail and reports, some meetings, I should say, pressing matters, popular activities. Quadrant 4, which is not important, not urgent, is trivia, busy work, junk mail, some phone messages and email, time wasters, escape activities, viewing mindless TV shows. And quadrant 2 is about preparation and planning, prevention, values clarification, exercise, relationship building, true recreation and relaxation. Quadrant 2 is the most important one. I'm going to tell you probably the most important 30 to 45 minutes of my week is on Sunday nights when I plan out the following week. And people would say, well, that's kind of a waste of time. You're not actually doing anything. Yes, I am. I have a double-sided sheet that has exactly what I have to do for my big key 3, other projects I'm working on, when my free time is, what relationships I'm working on, what I'm studying, what I have to do for my F5 system. And F5 is really all about Quadrant 2. Okay, I have a focus goal, fitness goal, a family, finance, and fun that I have to hit every single day. And I keep score of this. Might be a little crazy, but I don't care because that's puts so much space between me and other people that could be viewed as my competitors or whatnot, but it just keeps me moving forward. So very important. Now, you want to spend most of your time in that Quadrant 2 activity. So you have to make a list of everything that you're doing on a daily basis because you're probably not even aware of where you're wasting the most time and where you're spending most of your time. Now, with that being said, once you figure that out, realize that planning and preparation, output, things of that nature, they all go there. Now, here's the thing, and it took me a while to kind of figure this out, is you can't always be outputting stuff, okay? You can't always be creating. Sometimes you create, sometimes you have to deliver whatever it is you created, but you also need input. So input to me is a very important Quadrant 2 activity, working on the self. But once you fall into that mindset that you always have to be making something and always be creating something, you're going to get stressed and frustrated because that's impossible to constantly put out stuff if that's 100% of what you think you should be doing. So you got to input, output, work on the self. What's up, Unlocking Your Inner Strength listeners? How would you like to know how to set your environments up so they're peak productivity environments? Most people have no clue how to do this. Well, I have good news for you. I've put together a special report showing you how to do this. Normally, it's $45, but since you're a loyal listener to the show, you can get it for only $10 at unlockingyourinnerstrength.com/time. So there's another book I'm reading by Gino Wickman. It's actually about being a great boss. Look, I realize I need to improve in many areas, and I'm always trying to become a better leader. But he has a Delegate and Elevate exercise in here. Again, it's based on quadrants, but I would recommend you figure out what activities constitute what in Covey's Quadrant. You can just Google that, and you'll come up with Covey's Quadrant, and you can get a visual of it. But then you're going to move to this Delegate and Elevate quadrant. So Quadrant 1 with that, okay, Quadrant 1 and 2 is where we should be doing all of our stuff. Quadrant 1 is things that you love doing and you're great at doing. Quadrant 2 is you like doing it and you're good at doing it. So not quite as powerful as Quadrant 1, but still you like it and you're good at it. Quadrant 3 is you don't like doing it, but you're good at it. And Quadrant 4 is don't like doing it and you're not any good doing it. So Quadrant 3 and 4 are things that you don't like doing, even if you're good or not good. Those are things that you got to somehow outsource. Eventually you have to outsource them, whether you're working on a side hustle, a side project, you have a team underneath of you. Figure out what it is those things are and get rid of them because they're not going to energize you. They're going to actually sap your energy. You want to do things that create more energy, okay? You want to do things that are going to keep expanding the vibrational source of flow and energy that surrounds you. So figure out what you love doing and like doing, the things that you're good at, and keep those. Now, when I do things like writing or creative activities like recording the podcasts, making videos, that energizes me a lot. When I do mind map coaching, I actually have 2 of them today. I already had one at 6 a.m. this morning. I got another one in about 20 minutes. That type of coaching, I think I'm very good at, I'm great at, and I love doing it, and it energizes me. And then that fuels kind of the rest of my activities for the day. Now, things like doing record keeping and things of that nature, I don't like doing that stuff. It saps my energy. If I'm spending time in Quadrant 4 activities, first of all, I know that I'm burnt out based on my type of personality. When I start going to mindless TV and really trying to zone out and check out, I know that something's off. But those things do not energize me. Checking email drains me. That's the reason I check email twice a week. And some people think that's something wrong with that, like it's a moral thing. And it's just utterly stupid that people think that. And they expect me to check email all the time. No, that doesn't happen. If you want to be like everybody else, do what everybody else is doing. If you want to live a great life and a life of as an example to people, then you got to do the opposite of what most people do. And I've told you this before, my phone ringer is always off. One of the main things on my phone, which I'm going to share with you in a second, is an app called Brain Focus. And I keep that up, but as I'm recording this, it's ticking down. I have 25-minute blocks on it with 5-minute breaks, and then after 4 blocks, I get a 20-minute break. But I work to that clock. That's that in the camera on my phone. I'm actually getting a new iPhone this week. Those 2 things are the most important things on my phone. Everything else on there I could do without. I don't like being alerted with the phone call, and that's why the ringer's always off. Okay, it's a low-level activity for the most part. And lastly, let me leave you with this. I used to think meetings were a waste of time, but as I realized that as I'm growing into my leadership role, meetings are one of the most important things that I do. And it's all about how you frame it. And I guess I used to think meetings were bad because of meetings I've been involved with in the past when I was a teacher, and they would just be pointless, boring meetings that didn't get anything done, and people were just doing it because it was mandated by the union and the school district. Meetings have to move the chains forward. People should leave meetings feeling a sense of clarity, sense of direction, sense of purpose, and they should be a little bit inspired. If you're just meeting and you're going off on tangents, and tangents are things that have no relevance to what you're actually trying to do, which most meetings, that's what happens. They just turn into a negative fest. Then that's why meetings get a bad name, and you usually don't get anything out of meetings. But if you set a clock and you work to the clock at the meeting, and that goes back to the Brain Focus app, nothing creates focus like intense time pressure. If you realize, okay, we only have 60 minutes to meet as a leadership team, and once that's up, we can't meet again until next week. That makes you say, okay, stay on track. So anyhow, figure out what quadrant out of Covey's quadrants you're spending most of your time. Aim to start developing what activities you should be doing to fulfill quadrant 2, which is not urgent, but it's super important. And then figure out what you're good at and great at and that you love doing, and keep those things and start outsourcing the other stuff. And if you don't have somebody to outsource it to, just keep note of it, because eventually you will be able to pass stuff off or do whatever you have to do to get some of the energy draining stuff off your plate. Remember, guys and girls, it's all about becoming better constantly and doing self-evaluation. And your workouts and nutrition are all going to feed into becoming better constantly. When you're working out, just keep pushing yourself mentally to become tougher. The body will follow. How you want the body to look will follow. But it's about discipline in that regard. And discipline is like a muscle. The more you work it, the stronger it gets. It's different than willpower. That's all I got for this week. If you like the episode, please like it. Please leave a review on iTunes. I need to get some more reviews up there. I could greatly appreciate your help. And share this with somebody that could use a positive message in their life. I appreciate you checking in. Be back next week for Halloween. Peace.
You've been listening to The Inner Strength Show. If you enjoyed the show, remember to subscribe, rate, and review us in iTunes.